Hello, everybody. It's Candy again from Gamer Social Club, and I am here after being scared completely from Paranormal Activity game coming out soon. And introduce yourself to everybody who's going to watch this.
Hey, I'm Brian Clarke. I'm the developer of Paranormal Activity. I almost said Mortuary Assistant because I'm a Mortuary Assistant developer, and I've been talking about that for so long. This is the first time I'm showing it, so it's only, the most stressful day in a very long time.
It's got to be a stressful time for you because there's also a Mortuary Assistant movie coming out. So you've got a lot going on.
Yeah, Mortuary Assistant movie comes out on Shudder tomorrow, actually. So we just did the director and I, we did a screening with a local horror group where I live at a funeral home. And that was a really interesting and fun experience. They were really excited to do it. Funeral directors are crazy people.
So we won't jump on that too much because we want to talk about Paranormal Activity, right?
Yeah.
Based on a movie series. I think I've only been able to sit through the first one. Clearly, I'm not a huge horror person, but I wanted to give this a good shot. I feel the adrenaline still coursing through me because of the game and the setting. So the setting is in Rochester, New York, a place that I'm familiar with. Tell us a little bit about narrowing that down, because that's a really interesting way of doing that.
Yeah, so originally there's a lot of setup for this game that ended up getting removed to make a better intro for PAX and things like that. But this couple is looking for a house that they can afford because they can't spend any money. And Rochester in New York is one of the few places that has to list if they believe a house is haunted. So I was going to use that as justification for the cheaper price. And I figured that I like basing things in New England anyway. So I was like, oh, well, Rochester makes sense for that. And then I went on Zillow and I looked for housing costs in New York and found my way to Rochester. I was like, okay, I'm looking for something where there would be a higher population and the house would be within the range of what the couple's willing to spend. And so I found that. I was like, okay, Rochester's the place. So that's how I ended up landing on that. It was a lot of really weird house hunting research, actually.
Okay. Yeah, that's a cool way to set it in reality, though. So I think that adds to the sort of atmosphere, right? Because as soon as I saw it pop up and say Rochester, I was like, oh, I know the area. Yes, there are houses that are old. Yes, there are houses that look a little beat up. So it adds that sense of immersion.
So that was actually the other factor. That reminds me, I was looking for ages of houses, like when they were constructed, and Rochester had a number that were in the age range I was looking for that would be like the right age house for this story. So yeah, it checked all the boxes. Turns out Rochester, New York is a fantastic place for spooky stuff.
It definitely is. So tell us a little bit about why this sort of a game, right? Mortuary Assistant obviously is, based in a mortuarium, right? And very different types. So why going into like more paranormal, the sort of real intensive feeling, and the camera is still there? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Sort of, it's a bit of a deviation, but not a lot, which I think is the reason. I actually like the way that I do like scares and Mortuary Assistant. There's a lot of influence that I take from film for what I do anyway. But Paranormal Activity is actually one of the things where I love the way they built tension. I love the way that the payoff for the scare feels really good. And it was really influential for how I ended up doing the more passive scare stuff in Mortuary Assistant. So when Dread came to me, it was like, hey, would you want to make a Paranormal Activity game because we feel like you'd be a fit? I was like, oh yeah, that feels like that makes sense. It's like I could do the same sort of spooky stuff, but in this setting it'd be a bit of a challenge because it's a little different with like, I want to make it, I want to capture the feeling of the film, right? There are other games that I think there's another Paranormal Activity game that was made a while ago. It's a VR game. And there's no footage stuff or anything like that. And I wanted to do things that were reminiscent of the film, right? I think there's plenty of successful stuff in that other game. I want to have, like, when people play the game, they go, oh, this reminds me of the movie. And then I add on to that the layers of the things that I like to do, the things that I build, right? And that's how you get this marriage of footage and current day and kind of like bleeding in between the two. Because I think it offers a lot of opportunity for me to try to capture the things that people love from the Paranormal Activity films, but then adds a depth that allows me to do some of the more weird out there stuff that I like to do. And I can kind of do it across both these mediums, and that's what I'm trying to capture. So I'm really excited to be doing it. There's still more to go, obviously, but I've been really, really excited with how people have been responding to the game here. They've had really positive things to say, and I hope they're not just being super nice because I'm here, but imposter syndrome really runs deep with creative people and indie developers especially, right? But it's really nice to see how people have been responding so far. I've been really, really happy with them. Psyched.
No, I mean, like I said, I couldn't finish it. Everybody, Gamer Social Club knows that I'm a chicken. The adrenaline, the tension, right? That the lack of sounds and then just a little bit of sounds, the clock ticking, right? As you're investigating, I was like, okay, yes, this is terrifying in the best of ways.
Yeah, that's one of those things that's actually really challenging with this is I really love atmosphere and like being feel like you're being submerged in like this kind of thick atmospheric experience, which is what Mortuary Assistant has a lot of tonally great things with like the storm going on, and I use that as a backdrop for silence, right? And like you get used to that, and then you hear other things on top of it. Paranormal Activity, like Mortuary Assistant, I got dead bodies walking around. I got all these creatures, all these crazy weird things I came up with. Paranormal Activity, those don't exist, right? I've got doors that open slowly and shadow things, right? Now, Paramount has been really awesome with some of the ideas that I have had that have really they've been like, yeah, sure, that sounds cool. But it's because the way I'm framing it, I think, the way that I'm doing it, that works. But with this, I've got a lot, silence is a huge player in this. I've got room tone and everything going on to try to fill some of the space, but it's really rather quiet at times. And I'm trying to really walk this line of, all right, I build up and I use a little bit of texture. You have the rumble from the movies and stuff like that. I have a few additional things that I use that are meant to kind of heighten that feeling, but not tread too far into a musical score or a soundtrack of any kind, right? Or soundscape. But I'd say my goal is I'm trying to capture the feeling of watching Paranormal Activity, not just make Paranormal Activity in an environment you walk around in. I want you to have things happen and things build and feel a certain way that are reminiscent of how you feel when you watch the films. So we'll see if I manage to do that. That's up to other people to decide, I guess, once they play it. But like I said, so far people have been happy, so that makes me happy.
I think so far you captured it. So when does everybody else get a chance to check this out? Demo, full, any release dates, or just coming soon?
This is going to be one of the hardest things because I'm going to be asked this a lot. It's got to be coming soon. This is one of those things that's tough about. I got Dread, I got Paramount, and it's their desires of when we show things, how we show things, and the best I can say is sooner than later, because after PAX, I'm going into how I structure the demo, which won't be wildly different from this, but there will be more to it. It'll end a different way, that sort of stuff. It's just meant to give players at home, in the comfort of their own quiet, dark home, more to chew on. So I've got to do all that, and then we'll be putting a demo out. So it's sooner than later. Can't say exactly when.
That's fair. When there's a demo out, we'll make sure that we include it in our demo disc that you can check out on gamersocialclub.ca. And we'll make sure to keep you all in the loop. And thank you so much for scaring the hell out of me and for this time. Thank you.